Welcome to PHRC, Raising the Standard, a television show that was birthed from Paducah Human Rights Commission right here in the award-winning Paducah, Kentucky. I'm your host today, Bernice, and I'm missing my co-host, Commissioner Leslie Page, and so I want to give a shout out to her. Our guest today is the illustrious County Attorney Sam Clymer, Jr. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, thank you. I know you're busy. We all know you're busy, but thank you for taking time to be here today and to sort of a follow-up show from the last time you were with us. But now you're here because we want to talk about your new position. You've gone from being assistant county attorney to the new sheriff in town, so to speak.
So to speak.
You are now the county attorney.
That's right. We've had a lot of things happen since last time we talked.
Yes.
I think we got together back last November, and I think it was just after I'd announced that I was wanting to run for county attorney. Now,
yes.
Here we are.
Here we are. Well, it's been interesting all the way. Now, you've always done an excellent job as assistant county attorney.
Thank you.
You are, yes, always done. You've done a great job. Very well respected run in that position. But now, as county attorney, although many of the responsibilities are either transitioned or impacted. Tell us a little bit, first of all, about how, what transition you had to make, and now what are the full responsibilities as the county attorney?
Well, you know, I've been considering that very question and what my answer to that would be for, I guess, 8 years. The 8 years that I served as an assistant county attorney. And I was lucky enough to be able to observe the office. And I was able to observe the office under the leadership of Dan Bowes and under Mike Murphy. And both these men, great leaders, great county attorneys, but you know, I'm a different person and I have different perspectives, I guess. And so I feel like that I was really blessed in that I had 8 years to sit back, watch the way the office was orchestrated, organized, and ran. And I also at that time got to work every single one of the criminal dockets and some of the civil representation of the fiscal court and the county offices and officers. That's a huge part of the job. But the best thing about all that is it gave me essentially an 8-year case study as to how to best run the McCracken County Attorney's Office so that it's best for the citizens and for the county. Just what's good for the citizens is good for the county and vice versa, you know. So when I came in as county attorney, my singular goal in public service has always been the same thing from day one, and that is just to use the gifts and the blessings that I've been given to make my community a better place.
Yes.
And the way that I can do that, I feel like I'm uniquely suited to do that as an attorney, because that's, you know, being an attorney is kind of more like a calling. You know, it's not necessarily a job. I mean, it can be. You can work the job and you can get through and go to retirement and have a decent life. But if you're an advocate and a real lawyer, a minister of justice, you know, as prosecutors are deemed to be by the Supreme Court rules, then you got to have a little something higher to strive for. And so that's what I've always strived for, is the excellence of McCracken County and Paducah as the place that I was born and raised.
I was researching some entrepreneurial quotes, and one of the best that I found recently was that you strive with your passion and not money.
Right.
Your passion and not money will equate to success. And success is defined, people try to define success, but success is defined on an individual basis, depending on what is in your heart, your mind, versus what you're doing, what you have a passion for.
Yeah.
But that particular person said passion over money, and if you're passionate and you stay with it, money will come.
Right.
Success will, of course, equate. And something that you said about a higher calling, it's very encouraging for me, for you, and I'm sure for other people of faith, that you speak of a higher calling. And I agree that, first of all, you've been passionate about it prior to you becoming county attorney, and your passion has kept you on the front line. And now you're on the front line and you're leading everybody else who's on the front line in that entity. And so I want to commend you for not putting your faith on the shelf when you leave the house. You bring it with you. But you're smart, you're accomplished, you respect the law, and you know how to separate the church from state, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the Constitution requires that we do so, so I follow the law. You know, I serve the Lord and I serve the law. So.
Yes, how about that? And you
That's
put it
right.
in the right order.
Yeah, that's
County
right.
Attorney, you
Well,
are
sure.
all right
Yeah.
with me.
Well, thank you.
Well, so what are some of the things that were unearthed, or that you discovered, or that in which you were enlightened as you made that transition from assistant to full county attorney?
Well, I kind of trailed off a little bit ago when I was talking to you about my motivations. And in a nutshell, what I feel like is able to make the county the best it can be is to have the best county attorney that they can have. You know, and I don't mean that to be a negative against anybody else that's served in the position, but I will say that my biggest turnaround, or the thing that I wanted to get turned around with the job, is to have the county attorney be incredibly more active with the fiscal court. You know, the county is just like a business corporation. It can't do anything. I mean, it's an incorporated entity. It exists as an entity, and it does stuff in its own name, but it can't do anything without the fiscal court. It's kind of like our board of directors. And the most important thing to a corporation is its lawyer. You know, and we absolutely had to have an attorney that, you know, had the background in municipal governmental representation, which I have. I did that for 3 years in private practice before I came over to the county attorney's office. And that just opened up the world of governmental liability, governmental duty to the citizens. I mean, everything is touched by the law. Nothing can be done without the law's implication. And so that was my singular goal. Well, the singular goal, make the county the best. And the mechanism by which I implement that is to make sure that the county has the best and most reliable and competent attorney that they possibly can. And so my duties are, I mean, truly, I'd say 90%, maybe 95% of what I do is representation of the fiscal court.
Yes. If you had to, if we could do it without imposing on you too much, give us the order of authority as it relates to you. Where does it begin while it works down to you, or while it works over to you, so to speak?
Okay. I'll try to answer that one. As far as, I guess, maybe a hierarchy or chain of command type situation. Well, you know, that's one of the real neat things that I like about being county attorney, is because I don't have a boss. I mean, it's great. It's you know, I'm a constitutionally created officer. That the last version of our Constitution, which is I think like 1894 or something like that.
Wow.
It created the position and the duties, and I'm actually an autonomous body. I mean, completely autonomous from the county and any other elected official, which is, I mean, it's very handy, because in order to be a proper advocate, you got to be autonomous. You can't really be a lawyer for an entity and serve the entity at the same time.
All right.
Because that could, I mean, I could see definitely a conflict of interest where you have so-and-so giving you your marching orders or signing your paycheck, and then they're saying, should I do this? Knowing as a lawyer that's a bad idea,
Right.
so don't you even think about doing that.
Wow.
You know, when it comes from me as a detached individual, they know that I'm looking at it from a neutral aspect. And so it's very, I mean, the legislature got it right on that one, as far as having a neutral entity advising all the others. But it can also get interesting at times.
Now, if you were not a stellar human being to start with,
Thank you.
that would be real scary.
Oh,
This
yes.
whole thing about autonomy, that would be real scary.
It is.
Now, with you in that position, now it's not scary, but that whole thing about autonomy is frightening to people who don't understand how things work.
That's right.
But with your explanation and how it operates, then I would suggest, and I submit, that people should feel very confident with that position, and operating position, and very confident in you being in that position.
That's right. I think that what I bring to the table as the county attorney, and this is kind of, it's like my big statement. I have 3 rules, and I give credit to my dad for instilling in me values, to my mom for instilling in me values. Lord knows my wife deserves a whole lot of credit, because I'm a very malleable person.
He's a very smart
Yeah.
man.
And she kind of gets me on the right track. She actually works in the office with me. And so it's very handy to have her there, because she can reel me back in. She can refocus me when need be. So thank you. But my 3 things that I always keep in mind, and this is not just for public service, but it's particularly relevant to public service, but through life in general, And the 3 rules that I keep in mind are, always follow the law, always do what you know is correct or right, and treat all people that you encounter with respect and equality. If you do those things, I mean, you're just not going to go wrong.
Can we hear those one more time?
Okay, the 3 rules. 3 rules are always follow the law, always do what you know is right, and treat all people that you encounter with respect and equality, and you can't go wrong.
You heard it from the county attorney.
Yeah.
Now, that's very similar to what my parents taught me. Now, along the way, I did have some stupid moments.
Well, don't we all?
Oh, and but because of the firm foundation, you had something to come back to.
That's right.
That's important, and you make your daddy look good.
Well, I try.
Who is your daddy?
You know, the man in the black dress.
Judge Clymer.
That's right.
And he's a remarkable man as well.
Yeah.
And you did a good job, Dad.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have to agree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, you gave a shout out to your wife, and you beat
Yeah.
me to it.
Yeah.
What is her name?
Meredith Clymer.
Meredith?
Uh-huh.
Thank you for marrying this gentleman, and we appreciate
I
you.
second that. And she's actually our juvenile prosecutor.
Yes.
She prosecutes all the juvenile offenses and also the what's called the DNA offenses, the dependency, neglect, and abuse, where a parent or guardian has neglected a child, and they need to be held accountable, obviously, and she does a bang-up job of doing that. Very passionate.
Yes. I remember seeing the photo that was in the Paducah Sun when you were being sworn in by your dad.
Oh, yeah.
And your wife was there, and she looked as if she was about to explode with pride.
Oh, yeah. Our little boy Blaine right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was very touching.
Yeah.
Because as a woman and as a wife, I could sense her spirit at that time that photograph was taken, and during the swearing in. It was a wonderful picture, a wonderful spirit, and a wonderful article.
Well, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
That was a great moment.
Yes. Tell us about in that newspaper article in the Paducah Sun, in that newspaper article, and I think in a subsequent article, I believe, you were speaking about some salary issues.
Right.
If you would take us to the beginning, bring us to the present about that issue, and take your time with it, because I think people appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a real unexpected moment for me. In coming in to the county attorney position, first of all, the county attorney we have dual roles. We have a state role and we have a county role. Obviously I'm the legal representative and lawyer for the county, but then also provide services to the state via criminal prosecution. So we have 2 pools of money that we're paid from, state and county. There's a statute, and I can't recall the exact citation off the top of my head, amazingly, because I've looked at it a lot here recently. But in a nutshell, it provides that a county attorney is not to make over X amount of money from both revenue streams. And I've been in office for about 3 months. And I'm trying to acclimate to the office. Even though I've been there for 8 years, it was a huge undertaking. I had to make unfortunately, some personnel decisions that really bothered me, but had to do it. Other things needed changing. In other words, I was just very preoccupied.
Yes. I
never would have thought, and it sounds funny to say it, but I never would have considered that taking on a new job, I'd need to be careful to make sure I'm not getting paid too much. I mean, really. So, but I never did get a concrete answer as to what it was I was paid. So one day, I'm sitting there at work, got everything pretty well handled, my desk is cleaned off, and so I started looking into it. And because I know that there's a statute that says, and so if there's a statute that says, I need to do. So I got the numbers from the county, I got the numbers from the state, I added them together, and I was thinking, man, seems like a whole lot of money. And so then I started digging around a little bit, starting to do some calculations. I'm a lawyer, I'm not good at math, that's why I went to law school. But the numbers were starting to add up to where something was askew. And I recall that there is a publication, is a letter that goes out from the Department of Local Government to all elected officials at the first of the year, of every year, and tells them this, according to our calculation, is the maximum that you're allowed to make. At some point I got that, and it got lost in the shuffle maybe. I don't remember reading it. So I called up John Cunningham, who's the county attorney down in Graves County, and he's a stand-up guy. He's still serving as county attorney, and he's by the book. So I asked him, said, am I reading this right? Am I correct that I'm only supposed to make this amount of money? And he said, oh yeah, absolutely, that's the law. So at that point, we're probably at about 4:45 in the afternoon. I realized that I'm making $14,330 in change more than I'm supposed to. So the first thing I did was have a small panic attack because there's...
I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the business of, I put people in jail for breaking the law. And what was going on with my salary was against the law. You know, whether or not there's criminal intent, that's one thing, but that's good enough for me. Against the law is against the law. So and the terrible part about it is there was nobody over at the judge executive's office, because we're at the end of the day. There's nobody for me to tell, and I'm sitting here just, you know, I got myself together finally. I was like, okay, well, something's got to be done tomorrow. So I went home and I discussed it with my wife, and you know, it's obvious what had to be done. And so the next day, I had a very unexpected meeting from the judge executive's perspective with he and the treasurer. And I didn't tell him what it was about. I just said, I need you both. I need to have a discussion with you immediately. And so we went into the treasurer's office, closed the door. I said, I need you to do two things. I need you to immediately cut my salary by $14,330.78 or whatever it was. And I also need you to come up with a figure that shows the overage that I've been paid so far, and I'll cut a check back to the county for it. And I mean, you could have heard a pin drop, you know, like little crickets in the background.
Now,
Maybe a
I
tumbleweed
hear
going
crickets
through.
right now.
But it was so funny because Judge Leeper is sitting there next to me, and he's like, and he made some comment, and I think it was, I need you to pay me less money, said a lawyer never. Something like that.
That's hilarious.
But, oh yeah, but you know, it was, you know, it's not that, and this is not something that has come about through somebody's, you know, malintent or greediness. I mean, nobody wants to put their integrity on the line for 14 grand. It just happened. I still don't know how it happened. There's an investigation, well, not an investigation, but the judge executive's office is looking into it to figure out when new monetary amounts were approved and all this business. You know, that's kind of their own thing. I'm letting them handle that. I feel like I've done my part.
Yes, you have. 14,000 and something part.
You know, it's
that's
not
a lot
very,
of money.
Yeah, it's not chump change really.
That's a salary for many Americans.
Yeah, really.
If that much.
Yeah, I mean, it was. But, you know, at the same time, I wasn't supposed to have that. And, you know, some people would say that, you know, what an ethical dilemma you were in. But, I mean, there was no dilemma.
Not for you.
No, I mean, the black and white, the law says, you know, there's words written on the paper, and they say, you shall not.
You shall not. Oh,
yeah,
my.
it's not open to discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I am sure some people are very baffled, and those who don't get the Paducah Sun, either in the physical newspaper or on the or they're online, I am sure that they have. They're just sitting in their living rooms and whatever, just looking and listening to this, and they are simply amazed, because again, to the average American, $14,800 dollars. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, it
And
is for
so,
sure.
first of all, I salute you.
Well, thank you.
My. And took my level of respect for you way up there.
Well, I appreciate it.
And that encourages many, and you're a very young man, that encourages many young men and women to understand that integrity is worth more than money.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, any day is worth more than gold.
Right.
And if you lose it, if you get it back, it'll be a long time and a long, high uphill climb to get it.
Yeah.
So it's always good to protect it. If you know what it is, then you're responsible for what you know.
Right.
So that's something from my daddy. So
Yeah.
he said, if you know it, you're responsible for
Yeah.
it. So do it or
That's
suffer
good
the
guidance.
consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll shift just a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit about the types of cases you almost always have come to your desk, come to your attention.
Well, the most prevalent cases, well, I mean, there's a couple different ways to look at it. There's cases that come to us in numbers. and then there's cases that come to us in severity, ones that pose dangers to our fellow citizens. The things that come to us in numbers, stuff like possession of marijuana, stealing from Walmart, things of that nature, and just petty criminal offenses that they're on the books as being illegal. A lot of people like to with the marijuana discussion. I'll say, well, I think the present count is like maybe 18 or 20 states where it's either legalized or decriminalized, whichever one it may be. And people say, well, how are you going to take a hard line against something like that? But as long as it's on the books,
right,
we prosecute.
Right.
It's like the Supreme Court rule says, and I think it's 3.13, sub 3, I think, says prosecutors to be a minister of justice, not merely an advocate. And so that's what justice gives us. That's what the law says. That's what we do. The things that really pose the biggest danger to society and to our fellow citizens are domestic violence and drinking and driving, impaired driving. And domestic violence, that's a specialty in and of itself. And we actually have a dedicated prosecutor that handles nothing but domestic violence.
My goodness.
And she's full-time.
And that's how prevalent it is.
It is. Oh, yeah. It's, a lot of the things that go on in the community, I think it's probably for the best that most folks are not aware of. But because, when you get your eyes opened a little bit, you really start looking around corners.
Yes.
And you just never know. I mean, there's a lot of people, they're capable of some pretty negative things.
Yes.
But that's why we're there. We try to get them off the streets and protect everybody else from them. But yeah, domestic violence, absolutely. And that's dangerous not only for the participants, obviously, but then you got the children.
Yes.
You got the emotional scars. And whereas I was brought up seeing how to treat a woman with love and respect, and treat everybody that way for that matter, but particularly your wife or another lady. And some of these kids see exactly the opposite.
Yes.
I mean, that's their knee-jerk reaction. Your wife makes a cold dinner or something. I mean, it's these little things that you can read it on the citation. What sparks a fight, and it's just nothing.
What do you have in place to help? I guess the victims. I don't like that word so much, but for lack of a better one, what do you have in place to assist victims, if any? To help them to transition from that spirit of victimization to a spirit of freedom, of getting out of bondage and those types of things. Do you have anything in place that would help them?
We do, and that's actually one of the changes that I made to the office when I first came in. The role of victims advocate is an incredibly important role, and I employ one full-time victims advocate and one part-time victims advocate. And I'm not going to comment or make any statements about who was in the role,
right,
but I have certain standards that I'd like for a person in an advocate type role to project to others. And so we did a lot of hard searching, and we found 2 individuals that are new to the office that provide that service, and they're full-time advocates of victims. They call the victims anytime there's a court date, or first of all, when they first come in, they have an opportunity to. And I have a victim advocate wing that also has the domestic violence prosecutor there in it. So when a victim comes in, not only do they meet the advocate and they get all the advocate services, but they also, you can knock on the door and in walks Abby Barnes, who is the domestic violence prosecutor, and she tells them from the get-go, here's what the system's going to be like, here's what I'm going to need from you, here's what I'm going to give to you. And they also refer them to any of the whole host of services in this community that are in place to aid victims of domestic violence. And a lot of times we found out that a referral to a service agency isn't really even necessary, because these ladies and these men, sometimes they're victims of domestic violence. They come in and they have a situation where they can sit down, let their guard down, and talk to people that understand.
Yes.
And know that these people are here to help them. They don't pay us anything. It's a free service. We do it because we care. And I think that is the peace of mind that a lot of them need to carry forward, and not recant the story because they're going to lose support or something like that. That's always a battle in domestic violence, unfortunately. But
what do you have in place for those who they come across your desk as having been arrested and about to be prosecuted for marijuana or any other type of drug?
Well, we have We just got it finalized. And actually, let me back up just a little bit. I think we're probably about 2 weeks away from getting a program finalized. We just got it approved by the Supreme Court, which is a diversion program.
Wow.
And yeah, it's really great because it assists individuals that either are first-time offenders, or maybe they've had an offense way back when they're in their teens, and now it's been 15 years later, and they slip up,
Yes.
make a bad decision. Something like that should not, in my mind, keep an individual from being able to get into a college program or get a job down the road. Because when you look at it, and you got person A that has all these wonderful grades, but they got a marijuana conviction.
Yes.
You got person B, all these wonderful grades and attributes, no marijuana conviction. I mean, who do you think's going to get it?
Yes.
It's going to be this individual.
Of course.
Because there's such a stigma related to drugs, and marijuana is included there. So what we like to do is give an individual an opportunity to better themselves, and what I like to say is through education rather than incarceration. So they work the program, they attend, they do random drug screenings, they do a marijuana or substance abuse education type course, and they also have to attend, depending on their history, a certain number of NA meetings. Because it's nice to be able to take a person that's doing something that they perceive as being inconsequential and let them go to an NA meeting and see what somebody whose life has been destroyed by drugs, ruined every job they've ever had, every relationship they've ever had, and these are the people that have hit rock bottom and now they're coming up. And so these individuals get to see how bad it could be.
So your office, and you're under your umbrella, you have already hit the floor running with these two programs that I guess initially are designed to not only to give new life to those persons who've made those choices, or those persons rather who have been mistreated, but to also give them hope.
Right.
You give them help, you give them hope, and then that's good for the community. That's good for the entire citizenry.
Yeah. Yeah, and that person, they're going to come out of this situation, not only having learned something, but with a feeling of accomplishment. Which a lot of the people that I deal with, they're not the most accomplished. I'll say that. I mean, they're good people. A lot of real salt of the earth people end up in district court, and it's always because of maybe a friend of theirs gave them a pill or something like that, or they got caught with some marijuana. It's always what gets them in there, and just try to do your best.
Try to do your best.
Try to do what's right. Try not to get caught, because then it's my problem. But but yeah, when they do come to us, it's a golden opportunity to help somebody.
Yes.
Instead of saying, "Now, don't you do that again," and we make them earn it.
Well, County Attorney, this has been wonderful. And of course, when it's wonderful, the time slips away very quickly.
That's right.
We want to thank you on behalf of the Paducah Human Rights Commission, and of course the City of Paducah, because we're under their umbrella.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. Just keep on being you and doing what you do, and we thank you, and God bless you.
Well, thank you, and God bless you too. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We'll see you next time.